long time ago, we did Cover Killer Nation's top 25 albums of all time. And I forgot to acknowledge the fact that a couple of days ago we reached the 5-year anniversary of this channel, so I think it's time that we do something that large once again. So here we are, Cover Killer Nation's top 30 favorite bands of all time. This is going to be rock and metal, so there's going to be a little bit of both. A couple other notes before we get started. First of all, this is something that changes very, very frequently. So really the top 7 is relatively solid and has not had much in the way of fluctuation over a number of years. However, anything from, say, 8 to 30 is really subject to change. So I really could have put together this list about 5 different ways, and this is just the one that I was completely satisfied with. So this is something that can change a little bit. Secondly, if you don't see your favorite band on here, either that or you're wondering why something's above something else, do keep in mind this is a personal list. This isn't my way of saying these are the top bands of all time. This is my way of saying these are my 30 favorite. So if you can get past those 2 principles, we're going to get along just fine. So here we go. Happy 5-year anniversary, Cover Killer Nation. Let's get this going and let's do it right. Number 30, we have Emperor. Emperor is probably the black metal band that evolved the most. It's the one that seems the most interesting to me, at least, as far as the longevity of their career was concerned, which actually was not as long as some of their peers. This is a band that definitely grew as the genre continued to sort of morph and really acted as a pace runner for a little bit more of a creative and kind of mind-expanding variety of black metal. Listen to Prometheus and you'll understand what I mean. But I also love the fact that post-Emperor, these guys have all been extremely active and have been very creative in their endeavors whenever you consider the works of Green Carnation and, of course, of Eson. So there you go. Number 30 is Emperor. Number 29, we have Portugal the Man, the first rock band on this list. In fact, these guys are indie rock. They're relatively recent within the past 15 years, but I have just loved basically everything that these guys have done ever since I was introduced to them back in, I think it was 2007 or 2008 by a gentleman on a message board. I just have really loved these guys. I feel that they had a really solid sound to them, and it's just something where their creativity really suggests that they should break out and be a big hit, similar to like the Black Keys or something like that, but it just hasn't happened for the group, even after Evil Friends was such a great album that just came out. I'm eagerly awaiting the follow-up to that, and they're here on this list at number 29. Number 28, we have Forgotten Tomb. Forgotten Tomb has definitely morphed throughout the years. Their last couple of albums have been kind of a little subpar. They would have definitely been higher on this list a couple of years ago. However, I still can't forget albums such as Negative Megalomania and Springtime Depression. Their early work is just some of the best depressing black metal or depressing doom metal that's on the planet, whatever you really wish to categorize it at. Suicidal black metal, fuck yourself doom metal, I want to die death metal, whatever. Who cares about that title or that name? These guys are just a really solid band. They have some great hooks, some great groove. Not to mention, they don't really give a fuck what you think. They don't give a fuck if you think they suck. They don't give a fuck if you think that you could do it better by recording inside of a Pepsi can. They don't give a fuck. They're going to do what they do, and that's what they've done. So that's why they're here. Number 27, we have Arcturus. This is a band that is really just amazing. They're very awe-inspiring in the fact that they kind of take this very strange approach to music. Their avant-garde variety is one of a kind, although there are some that do it better, but there's very much a space traveler feel to this, and whenever you consider the pantheon of great names that are involved with this project, including ICS Vortex from Dimmu Borgir, and of course Garm from Oliver for a good portion of their first half of their career, man, you really can't go wrong whenever those two guys are whispering ideas to one another, whenever you consider some of the other groups that they've been a part of, such as Borknagar. But Arcturus just came back with a great new album here in 2015. We reviewed it. I know that most of you would love for me to review the rest of the discography, maybe one day. Number 26, we have Creator. Of course, a couple years ago with Creator's last album, Phantom Antichrist, they took home a perfect 10 and got the album of the year that year. But Creator's a lot more than just Phantom Antichrist. They've had a hell of a career. Strange one, too. This is one where they started off as purebred thrash in the 1980s, took a little bit of a detour in the 90s and experimented with their sound, and then came back with a vengeance in the 2000s, and it's all led to perfection in, I believe it was 2013. Either way, actually, no, it wasn't. It was way back before that. It was like 2012. But at any rate, it's just great to see these guys being this active and writing music at this high of a level at this portion of their career. It's definitely something they've always been capable of doing, and they finally executed that Golden Mountain, and we're still waiting to see what follows it up. Hopefully something that's able to compare. Number 25, Judas Priest. Probably thought these guys would be higher, but I'm going to spoil this and say Black Sabbath's not on this list. I love them. I think they're influential. They're a great band, but they'd probably be somewhere between 31 and 50. If that surprises you, I'm sorry. Judas Priest is a band that almost didn't make this list because even though they're hugely influential and a fantastic band, there's just so many other heavy hitters on here. But I had to throw Priest on here because they've been going at it for 40 years, and there have been very few albums of theirs that I've ever felt were subpar. So this is definitely a mark of consistency. Not to mention, Rob Halford is one of those gentlemen, and really Judas Priest are just one of those bands that it's almost impossible to hate, regardless to your conceptions of metal. They're a band that definitely applies to a lot more than just the heavy headbangers. This is one that can apply to just about everybody, especially whenever you consider songs such as Living After Midnight or Breaking the Law. Of course, Painkiller is certainly still their magnum opus, but that's also subject to a little bit of debate for some people. Their modern output has been decent as well. I really can't complain about it much. They're still one of those bands you kind of wish would live forever, though. It's just kind of the truth about it. Number 24, we have Amorphous. These guys, speaking of bands that just keep getting better, these guys have been getting better for a long, long period of time. Ever since the middle portion of the 1990s, they had a little bit of a detour with a couple of albums in the late 90s, early 2000s that were not highly regarded by both fans and critics alike, but ever since then, it just seems like this band can do no wrong. I remember the first album of theirs I got was Tulinia, which I thought was a phenomenal disc. I really enjoyed that whenever I got that for Christmas one year back in like 1998, whenever I was the ripe age of 14. But it's been kind of brought to my attention by listening to their other work that this is actually a weaker disc, though I still jam the fuck out of a song like Rusty Moon. Number 23, we have Orphan Land. These guys, not to mention, these guys are not only great based around their music, but not to mention their real passion for getting it out there. These are guys that went to jail based around their beliefs and based around wanting to bring their music to the masses in an area where that wasn't necessarily something they were able and allowed to do. That doesn't alone make them a part of this list. What makes them a part of this list is the fact that the albums that they have released have been absolutely spellbinding. Listen to an album such as The Never-Ending Way of Or Warrior or Mabul, and you'll really understand what I am talking about. This is creative. This is very passionate. There's a lot of heart and soul that has gone into this music, and it really shows with every single portion and every note that is cast. They've also worked a little bit with Steven Wilson, which is definitely a bonus in my mind, but it's not something that incorporated them into this list. It's their work. 22, we have Pain of Salvation. Daniel Gillenau and the boys come in here at 22, and the middle portion of their career has just been amazing. And the recent stuff like Road Salt hasn't been all of that bad either. This is a band that definitely uses a lot of emotion to their advantage with their style of progressive metal, and it works beautifully for them. This is one that I would consider part of the progressive metal pantheon, along with names such as Dream Theater, which we may see later on this list. And they just have a uniquity to them. They have a strange quality to them that is very enchanting, and the band is able to hook you. It's one of the main reasons why I ever wanted to write a concept album was based around listening to The Perfect Element by Pain of Salvation. And I have, in that time frame, written text for a couple. So I definitely have Daniel and the guys to thank for that. Number 21, we have Carcass. Carcass just won Album of the Year, this time I'm right, 2013, for Surgical Steel, but their career has influenced literally an entire subgenre of music. And it's been based around the fact that no matter what style they kind of aim for, whether it be grindcore, or some people even say they've gone into the melodic death metal department with releases such as Heartwork or Swan Song, or even with Surgical, it doesn't really matter, because either way, they are fucking top god tier at it. They just are extremely well put together, great outfits, and live they are a blast. They're a lot of fun. So this is a group that certainly has paved the way for so many other bands that may be on a lot of your lists if you're a little bit younger, the bands that perhaps mean the most to you, but to me, this classic act is absolute essential listening. Check them out if you haven't already. Number 20, we have Between the Buried and Me. This is a newer group for by comparison to some of these others, but they're string of albums that they've been putting out, it's really hard to debate against them. They're just a very, very tight band, one that's willing to really embrace the unexpected and somehow bring it all to some sort of cohesive head. I feel like their earlier albums were a tad bit more unpredictable, especially whenever you got into what I would consider their masterpiece, which is Colors. That album is unpredictable but extremely cohesive. It's just an amazing, amazing experience. It was actually the newest album to hit Cover Killer Nation's top 25 albums of all time list. And it's well worth it. This is definitely a new age classic by a great band. They have a new album, Coma Ecliptic, which is coming out in July, so we're going to be talking about that. And after that, they may actually shoot up the list a couple of, positions. You never know. Number 19, we have Catatonia. Here's a group that had to really make some decisions in their career early on whenever they decided to go from being more of a doom metal with a little bit more of a death metal rasp to them to evolving into what they are today. They in fact enlisted Mike Ackerfee from Opeth to do all of the vocals for Brave Murder Day before finally settling in on just doing some cleaner vocals throughout the rest of their career. And let me tell you something, a lot of people gave them a lot of shit after that happened, but they have really magically turned that around and used that to their advantage to make great albums such as Viva Emptiness or some of the most recent output. I can't say anything bad about Catatonia. They're a band that's made the best of a bad situation and actually made it better. It's crazy how that can happen, and really whenever it comes to a melancholic band that definitely seems accessible to a lot of people, this is the band to go to. Number 18, we have Mastodon. Mastodon is arguably considered by many to be the best band of this generation of new metal groups, and this is of course going to spark debate everywhere. However, this is a group that certainly has morphed as a band and matured very much so ever since their first album, and that has been to the love and the hate of some of their core earliest fans. I really love that this band continues to morph into a group that evolves and sort of incorporates different styles with each progressive album. Such as putting in some progressive elements, either that or even throwing in a little bit of some stoner elements or some sludge, either that or just deciding to, rock the fuck out. Each of these albums is almost like a hard rock experience that's wrapped in a heavy metal luster, and it's a great thing for them considering it makes them dually accessible. And it's also, you can't really deny the fact that these guys are extremely proficient and great, tight songwriters. Number 17, speaking of tight songwriting, we have Tool. Now, Tool is a group that needs to put out a new album immediately, or else I might just toss them off this fucking list forever, considering I've been waiting for 17,000 goddamn years for the next release. Literally almost 10,000 days. Okay, not really. But you get the point. These guys are extremely influential. They're definitely one that has paved the way for a lot of great alternative bands and even some progressive metal bands. A lot of groups will cite these guys as an influence for why they're willing to embrace longer tracks, either that or strange time signatures, progressive ideas. This is the band that certainly made it very cool to be that way, much in the same way or in a similar vein as in the 1970s that was done by bands such as Rush or, Genesis or Yes, This is a group that definitely made it sexy, and it made it sexy to an alternative rock generation that was used to songs that were, 4 to 5 minutes long at the top. Number 16, we have Push Monkey. This is going to be one that's going to go over everybody's head, but this is a personal love. This is a personal, absolute love affair with this group, especially their self-titled release. This is a great album that I actually put on my top 25 albums of all time, not to mention their other work is not too shabby as well. I have a love affair for this band because they never really got that chance. They never really had that breakout moment, and they really deserved it. They had so many great songs off of their self-titled release, and really whenever you search the remainder of their catalog, there's some great tracks there as well. But I will still listen to their self-titled record and just not want to shut it off for weeks or months on end. It's in fact still in my car right now. It's really hard for me to get away from it. It's that kind of addicting, amazing album. And whenever you have one of those, it's hard not to fall in love with the band that put it together, and that's kind of the deal here. Number 15, we have Pink Floyd. Some people may have thought this would be a lot higher. Pink Floyd is a legendary group. It's definitely one of the first progressive bands, or at least considered progressive bands, that I ever listened to, and their work is certainly influential to so many other great bands. Everybody loves either Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall. I love Animals. People like Wish You Were Here. I will listen to Ummagumma. I'll listen to, Saucer Full of Secrets. I'll listen to Echoes, which everyone will toke up weed to, but instead I'll be listening to it to see what's, new subtle nuance I'll find in it. My love affair for this group is just very different than a lot of the others. A lot of them kind of associate it with one thing, whenever Pink Floyd is just a group to really space out and enjoy and kind of, take everything in. And that's what they're really all about. I love them. Number 14, we have Enslaved. This group has really grown. Really, really grown. Their 1990s material was a little bit more of the Viking metal philosophy. And the minute that they decided to kind of thrust in a little bit more into that and kind of really transformed their style into a black metal that had a very progressive and sort of a very different tone to it. Man, these guys just got so damn good. Album after album after album, these guys were just really jaw-dropping a lot of people, really causing a lot of jaws to drop, flooring them with just the precision and the just great songwriting. It's something where we had these guys as an album of the year, I believe back in 2011, I want to say. So now we've got 3 previous winners on the list here. And they're just a solid live product as well. Icedale is one of the funniest and buffest motherfuckers I've ever seen. I would never fuck with that guy. Although, he also seems happy as fucking can be, so Icedale and I would probably chill and get drunk. Either way, Enslaved is a phenomenal group that should be checked out by everybody who has a heavy metal pulse. At number 13, we have Soundgarden. Soundgarden is a great alternative rock band, a grunge band really by trade, and definitely one that will always speak to me. Chris Cornell's voice is one of the main reasons I ever wanted to be a singer, and that is a dream that I never fulfilled because as far as being a singer goes, I suck at it. But that's okay because Chris Cornell doesn't, and he and his group have been putting out great records ever since the 1980s. Super Unknown is absolutely legendary. King Animal really didn't fulfill my expectations, but upon future listens, I've been able to listen to it a lot more and really enjoy a lot more about what they were doing with that record. Bad Motorfinger is phenomenal. Down on the Upside is really underrated. Really great band. And Chris Cornell's solo stuff, especially Euphoria Morning, his very first solo album. Wow, you want to talk about top tier. Great stuff. Number 12, we have Rush. We're doing a discography. We're going to get back into that discography. I assure you of that. And this is a group that's influenced literally just about everybody today. Whether it be a rock band, whether it be a prog band, they could even be influencing pop artists based around arrangements that they want for their tracks. That's kind of the influence that Rush has had. They're definitely a love them or hate them group. A lot of people will say, well, you just love them for Tom Sawyer. Fuck you. No, I don't. I love them for basically almost everything that they've done. But I definitely have a highlight in the 1970s and the earliest portion of the 80s. And also the stuff that they have been doing recently with Clockwork Angels. That album was just phenomenal. Not to mention it dropped on my birthday a couple years ago. It was a really cool birthday gift. Thanks, Getty. Number 11, we have Dream Theater. Prog to Prog. Are we surprised by all the prog on my list? We shouldn't be. We really shouldn't be. A lot of people call Dream Theater pretentious dicks. I call them idiots because Dream Theater are just great musicians. They're folks that are able to put together just phenomenal music. And if you don't listen to Scenes from a Memory, Metropolis Part 2 by this group and not feel moved a little bit, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't understand what's wrong with you. Perhaps it's the fact that none of the songs are 3.5 minutes long and encourage you to shake your ass. That's probably why. Well, if that's the case, then fuck you. Get out of here. We don't want you in the Dream Theater universe. This is a group that has just really gone through a lot of turmoil in the past couple of years and came out of it smelling amazingly. Their self-titled newest album is a work of art, and I eagerly anticipate the follow-up to that one. Number 10, we have Modelin' of the Well. I should actually add K.O. Dot into this. Whenever it comes to avant-garde, these guys are the kings for me. Toby Driver and the gentlemen and ladies of Modelin' of the Well and K.O. Dot have just been expanding their minds and just giving music its own little zip code that's up near Boston, Massachusetts for quite some time, and it has been a brilliantly illuminating process. I really don't know how better to describe these guys as astral projection set to music, and that's kind of what they go for half the time. Modelin' of the Well definitely explored a lot more of the avant-garde universe, while K.O. Dot has done the same, only also explored some abstract minimalism, but also some just really unique traverses into even some doom metal and some atmospheric metal. It's just a really interesting and awe-inspiring project that just leaves my jaw on the ground every time I hear something. This isn't accessible for everybody, so I do warn that. But if you do find the ability to really check this out and really fall in love with it, you will not be sorry. Number 9, we have Overkill. Overkill, legendary thrash outfit, one that many people have said have been tremendously and terribly underrated, rather, for years and years, decades and decades. They just keep going. Bobby Blitz Ellsworth seems like he is timeless and ageless. He will never ever die, no matter what happens to him. And I am prone to agree. I think that he will never die. Okay, I'm not living in a fantasy world, but these guys are phenomenal. This is the band that definitely, if you love thrash metal and you haven't checked out Overkill, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? This is a great group that has really influenced a lot of individuals. They are one of the forerunners that kind of get left in the dark whenever mentioning some of the other bands that were within the thrashosphere within the 1980s, early 1990s. They've gone through their own share of problems, but at the same time, don't sleep on albums such as I Hear Black just because they don't sound like this, the Years of Decay or Taking Over or Killbox 13. Alright, number 8 we have Agalloch. Speaking of atmospheric metal, this is a group from the northwest corner of the United States that certainly takes that to a brand new level, kind of slices out a corner of that subgenre and just kind of sets up camp. The Mantle is easily one of the most important recordings of the new millennium, of the 2000s. It's certainly one that deserves that title. It deserves that title. And whenever you consider the remainder of their discography, such as Ashes Against the Grain, then you have a brilliant companion to that, and other brilliant companions to that. This is a band that requires consumption. This is a band that requires intellect and a little bit of thought. And this is also one that, if you happen to be in a very bad place, this is a group that could easily get you back into a very good place. They have that ability. Just check these guys out, if you have not already. I know that a lot of you have said that I've introduced you to Agalloch, and you are thankful for that. And if that's the case, you are extremely welcome. If it's not the case, and you are just hearing the name for the first time, please take their lead and check these guys out. You will not regret it. Number 7, we have Megadeth. Megadeth, of course, we just talked a lot of ill for their last album. However, there's nothing you can't say about these guys' career. Did a Megadeth discography, praised even Risk, and Rust in Peace is my number 1 album of all time. I think that's all I really need to say here. Number 6, Celtic Frost and Triptykon. Celtic Frost, another great and interesting band that had a, really they influenced the entirety of the extreme metal department. Maybe not all or every single facet of it, but damn close to it. They're definitely one that took that extreme metal idea to some great new boundaries. And then, in the 2000s, they decided to experiment with dark metal and just this melancholic, very, really dark style of music with Monotheist that has continued into Triptykon. And Triptykon has released 2 records so far and a couple of EPs, and every one of them has been a slam dunk. If you guys don't know about Triptykon, go now. If you guys haven't listened to a lot of Celtic Frost, go back. Yeah, I know, they did Cold Lake. I'd like to forget. Number 5, we have Death. Death is a phenomenal group, unfortunately, that is no longer with us. One of the forefathers, forebears, and greatest members of the death metal pantheon. And it's a group that definitely deserves inclusion on this or any list based around just how solid that they have been as a group. I really love the fact that a lot of these albums that they released, especially their last couple, are on various individuals' top of all time lists, and they're definitely on mine. Albums such as The Sound of Perseverance definitely deserve to be on there, though some people will tend to sleep on releases such as Individual Thought Patterns, either that or even Leprosy. Whenever you consider it, Death's discography is nearly spotless, and that's one of the main reasons they are this high on the list. Rest in peace to Chuck. We will never, ever forget, and we will never stop mourning this death. Number 4, we have Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains, of course, with Lane Staley. Lane's in not really my middle name, but it is on Facebook, so have fun with that one. These guys have been hugely influential just on my life in general, just getting me through a lot of tough times, and also just really showcasing that you don't necessarily need to have a 100% God-tier voice in order to be really successful in the alternative rock department. Lane's anguish throughout his vocal career, along with Jerry Cantrell's solid backing, is one of the main reasons why this group is phenomenal. That there's two voices, and they're not one that's, lead and backup. It's one where that ability and that responsibility is shared. Really is very unique to that department, to the alternative rock and hard rock atmosphere. It's one that you don't get all of that often, but whenever you do, you have to mention Alice in Chains as one of the best and the brightest at that. Of course, Lane Staley tragically died, and we now are in the new era of Alice in Chains, but that is just fine. I really appreciate the efforts of their new vocalist. I really appreciate the efforts of this group, and The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here was one of the top albums of its release year of 2013. Number 3 is Iron Maiden. This one is obvious because they are one of the most legendary groups of all time. My love for this band traces all the way back to the latter portions of the 1990s with one of my best friends, and it is something that will continue forever because Iron Maiden is one of the most solid and recognizable, but also one of the best bands to ever hit the heavy metal environment, from their new wave of British heavy metal roots all the way to today, where it almost seems like they are incorporating that heavy metal experience with a little bit of progressive environment, making some longer tracks, and in turn wowing a brand new generation of individuals. These guys are just one of a kind. The Final Frontier, you couldn't go wrong with that album whenever it came out, back whenever this channel just got started back in 2010. It's time for a new album. It's been 5 years, so come on, let's get it on. Number 2, Opeth. I know a lot of you are probably shocked. Years past, these guys would have been number 1, and I might as well just call it a tie. Because Opeth is probably one of my favorite bands of all time, and easily the one that I go back to the most often. And I don't know what it is that really struck me about these guys. I don't know if it was the fact that they were a progressive death metal band that used both clean and death metal growls. I don't know if it was the fact that it was one man doing all of that. Something about this band just absolutely triggered something inside of me. The beauty, the anguish, the pain, the landscape that really was provided with every single passing album really created something different. And now they have gone back and they're doing what they love with really a lot of throwback to 70s and 80s prog, especially the 1970s, and doing what they want. And I have all the respect in the world for that. Even where people think that it's bullshit, you're bullshit. Number 1, and probably tied with Opeth, have been for years, and I might as well just continue that idea, Porcupine Tree and Steven Wilson. Another group that just has absolutely everything to gain by doing something different, and they have done that. This is a group that remained underground for quite some time, and then In Absentia came out. They released something that had a lot of bite to it, a lot of edge, a little bit of metal to it, and all of a sudden, Swarm! A lot of people found out about who these guys are. And then they continued releasing just monumental albums with Dead Wing, and then Fear of a Blank Planet, and finally The Incident. Steven Wilson, ever since then, has been releasing solo material. And yeah, Hand Cannot Erase has a perfect 10 right now in 2015. That damn good of an album. These guys are great songwriters. These guys embrace creativity. They are sonic travelers that know no one address. They know multiple addresses, and they're not afraid to explore those avenues. This is a band, or this is a gentleman, that could just as easily go from listening to heavy metal, to listening to 70s rock, to listening to prog, to listening to krautrock, to listening to some atmospheric and ambient track, to probably listening to something in the pop universe. You say that you listen to everything? I don't believe you, because Steve just kicked your ass. And that's why Porcupine Tree and Steven Wilson are among, and actually probably are, my number 1 band of all time. And individual of all time. And man of the year. Tied with Mike. Big love fest. Storm Corrosion love fest. There you have it. We've been doing this for 5 years. I've been talking for probably about half an hour. I'm shutting up. I'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy.